This is Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy. Listen, laugh, and learn.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Roy. And today, we're going to talk about some animals.
We'll do some sexy sex.
Sexy sex. And we're also going to do some science.
And delve into the world of fashion.
Totally useless information. It's everything you never needed to know.
More people get totally useless information with us than anybody else.
Animals, crazy animals.
A rat named Magawa has been given an Animal Bravery Award for sniffing out dozens of landmines in Cambodia. Magawa received a gold medal from the People's Dispensary for Sick Animals, a veterinary charity in the United Kingdom, making him the first rodent in the nonprofit's history to earn this distinction. A gold medal for Magawa.
We know that zebras have striped skin that matches their fur.
Yes.
So the fur is striped, but their skin is also striped. What do you think about tigers and leopards?
Oh, my.
They share the same exact trait.
Oh.
Their skin is either spotted or striped, just like zebras. So it's not the hair that is actually, it's the skin that's the pattern that comes out in the fur, kind of like the gray in my beard.
Yes.
Beauty is skin deep.
It is. As the streets of San Francisco, I think it was an old TV show, The Streets of San Francisco.
Book 'em, Dano.
No, that was Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Streets of San Francisco, wasn't that with the big nose?
Carl Malden. That's right, Carl Malden. He's the guy that had all the American Express traveler's checks. Don't leave home without it. So, speaking of digressing, the streets of San Francisco's emptied out in the first months of the pandemic in the spring of 2020. The city's male birds began singing more softly and improving their vocal range, making them sexier for female counterparts. This is according to a new study. This phenomenon where they're singing softer and making them sexier is called anthropause. When the city was loud, it was singing really loudly. But as the traffic grew to a halt following a statewide shelter-in-place order in the spring, like we said, noise level fell by 50%. So imagine that.
Okay. What is the most common name for animals? Like, for instance, like dogs. Dogs, like Rex is a very popular name for a dog.
Right.
But what about goldfish? Kids buy millions of goldfish every year. What do you think the most popular name for goldfish is?
Gil?
No, I thought something like that too. Jaws.
Really?
Jaws. That is the most popular name given to goldfish.
Smell you later. Slugs have not one, not two, not three, but four noses. And their noses are retractable. 2 are for seeing and 2 are for smelling. They can be operated independently. This is how talented these slugs are. A slug can gaze at you or smell you and a friend at the same time. I don't think you or I have that ability, do we?
Yeah, my wife says, "How do I look?" And I go, very nice.
That's right, like a bouquet. Slugs are gooey and sticky, and they leave a trail of slime wherever they go. And that slime is called a liquid crystal, by the way, and it also has the ability to slurp up water.
Wow. Cool. What is the fear of animals called?
I didn't think there was a thing.
Listen, this is so cheesy, but it's for real. It's called zoophobia.
Oh.
Is the fear of animals. And that's for real. It's called zoophobia. That's totally like not imaginative at all. They could have called it like licka-lacka-loca-locaphobia.
No. Speaking of going to the zoo, sometimes you'll see some chimps. And sometimes you'll see those chimps drinking fermented tree sap. Scientists are studying these chimpanzees in Guinea, and they've seen evidence of long-term and recurrent ingestion of ethanol. There was a 17-year study recording chimps, and they're using the leaves to these plants to drink the fermented The 17-year study recorded.
I think you drank it.
Yes. Yes, I was visiting the chimp cage before I started the show today. The 17-year study recorded chimps using leaves to drink fermented palm sap. Some drank high enough alcohol to produce what they called visible signs of inebriation.
Yeah, they get whatchamacalls it SUIs, which is swinging under the influence.
That's right.
It took me a couple of seconds to put that together.
It's okay. Yes,
I think I had a little bit of that juice myself.
I think they are swingers. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Remember as a kid catching fireflies in a jar?
Yeah.
Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I didn't. No. Yes. Well, get ready. Fireflies don't bite. They don't even have pincers like other flies. And here's the real cool thing. Fireflies, unlike other flies, don't carry any disease at all. They can't carry any diseases. Why? I don't know. They're so uppity that they won't even hang out with other flies because they think they're so much better.
Oh. Yes. There's the upper fly and the lower class fly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy.
Welcome to the Totally Useless Information Fashion Show.
Up here in Canada, because I'm in Toronto, Canada, Roy is in Florida. And up here in Canada, we call these shoes running shoes or runners.
Right.
What the rest of the world calls them are sneakers.
Or if you're from Ohio or that mid-region of the United States, they call them tennis shoes.
Well, all of these started during the late 1800s. People wore these shoes with rubber soles called plimsolls, but they were really crude. The U.S. Rubber Company came up with a more comfortable rubber shoe with canvas tops during 1892 and called them Keds. You remember Keds as a kid? The shoes were named sneakers because the soles were so smooth that they allowed the wearer to sneak around silently. By 1917, the sneakers began to be mass-produced. And up here in Canada, like we mentioned, we call them running shoes. And in the mid-region of the United States, they call them tennis shoes.
So Keds were basically shoes with rubber soles.
That's right.
Which is what I do when I don't have sneakers. I just put condoms on my feet.
Or listen to the Beatles album, Rubber Soul.
Hey, listen, if you folks want to really see some fashion, go to nickandroy.com and you get to see actual pictures of us.
That's right. This is the opposite of fashion.
In 1907, a woman was arrested on a beach in Boston for wearing, get ready, a one-piece bathing suit.
Oh, my God, no.
Now, this is a bad fact because we have no idea what this woman looked like. She could have been charged with indecent exposure for wearing a suit of armor for all we know. She might have been really bad. So the one piece could have possibly been something she shouldn't have worn. I'm not saying anything. Don't send me your emails to nickandroy.com because I don't want to hear them.
No, that's right. She's wearing a one piece. During the 19th century, if you wore black and you weren't mourning for the death of someone, you would be considered dangerously eccentric. The women of the Victorian era were expected to dress in black mourning clothes for 2 years after their husband's death, and that started the tradition of wearing black at funerals in the West.
Right. And guys were supposed to wear tuxedos because the party began. That's terrible. Okay, you said black. Well, how's about this one? The little black dress that every woman has in her closet was compared to something as being the most simple and practical thing ever made. What was it compared to?
And the clock is ticking.
I'm asking Nick to
Yeah, he's waiting for the audience to mail
about as useless as useless information.
Okay. Yes, I put the useless and useless information. Yes.
The little black dress compared to the Model T Ford as being one of the most practical and simple inventions ever made.
Auga. Yeah.
It's probably amazing how many of those little black dresses came off in a Ford, but we'll get to that in another show.
That's right. They were disassembled in a Manatee Ford. Yes. What's up, docs? Klaus Martens was a doctor in the German army during World War II. While on leave in 1945, he injured his ankle while skiing in the Bavarian Alps. He found that the standard issue army boots were too uncomfortable on his injured foot. While recuperating, Klaus designed improvements to the boots with soft leather and air-padded soles made of old tires. The shoes, Doc Martens.
And basically, so you're still drinking from the leaves because you said instead of souls, you said shoals.
Did I? Yeah, and that's where Dr. Scholl's came from.
Hey, many designers and companies try to be ethically and environmentally sound. Let's just tell you this. They all try to be ethical and environmental. But Stella McCartney, daughter of Sir Paul McCartney, who is a designer, takes it to a new place. Instead of leather, all of her bags are made of woven corn.
That was an amazing fact. So what? She's got the only handbag with ears?
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
And the people who wear them are usually husky. All right, sorry.
Or they put tobacco in them and smoke from them,
Yes,
like
right.
a cob pipe.
Send your complaints to useless@nickandroy.com.
Nick and Roy will continue with totally useless information. To access the full library of episodes, visit nickandroy.com. That's nickandroy.com. Totally useless information with Nick and Roy continues. Listen, laugh, and learn.
A person who collects ties is called a grapatologist. Grapatologist. All right?
Rapatologist.
That's right. The days that bring the most visitors to the video on YouTube, how to tie a bow tie, that's what they search. How to tie a bow tie are New Year's Eve, Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, and National Bow Tie Day, which is August 28th.
Listen, logos are everything in fashion, like Louis Vuitton and Michael Kors. I mean, you could pick those logos from a mile away. What was the first fashion logo ever? And if you get anything out of this show, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm not
was
even going
the-
to I'm not going to try to guess.
Yeah, it was the Lacoste crocodile.
Oh.
And how funny, you know what the second was? The little person logo for the crocodile clothing. No, the Lacoste crocodile was the first actual logo when people would say, oh, that's a Lacoste sweater, you know, because they had the little crocodile on it.
That's pretty cool. You're listening to Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy. Thank you for joining us. We're in more nations than you can shake a stick at.
And now for something completely useless.
The first ever patent ever written. Now, patents are, you know, basically it's like a registration of if you come up with an invention or something. So I was thinking one day, because, you know, I have lots of time to think.
I seen the smoke coming from his headphones just now.
That's right. So I was thinking, what was the first ever patent? Well, it was on July 31st, 1790. It went to Samuel Hopkins. He was issued the first patent for a process of making potash, an ingredient used in fertilizer. The patent was signed by President George Washington
Oh,
in
wow.
1790.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. See, that's pretty cool.
It is.
Hey, listen, folks, if you go to nickandroy.com, you not only get to see pictures of us,
Uh-huh.
but you can actually go through every single episode, all 59 or something, or 58 with all our specials, and we have all kinds of things on there. So go to nickandroy.com.
You can even send us an email.
What's in the mailbag? What's in the mail?
We have an email from Mark, who lives in Costa Rica, which is cool. Hi, everybody in Costa Rica.
One of our listeners, yes, he must be one of our listeners because we have some people who have downloaded this show on one of their platforms from Costa Rica.
Yes. And he says he did go on nickandroy.com, which is cool.
Nice.
And he says that he's an expat from New York. He used to live in New York, and now he resides in Costa Rica, which, of course, is another country. He loves to listen to our show. He asked me this question, which I found odd because he said he couldn't find an answer to it, and he had a bet with his wife. How long did the Pony Express operate for? And I said, well, that's a good question because everybody knows the Pony Express, right?
Right.
Well, good question. And all of our listeners will be shocked at the answer. The Pony Express started in April 3rd, 1860, and it ended on October 24th, 1861.
Oh.
Okay, get ready for this. This is a shocker. 18 months. And not only that, the company went bankrupt. The Pony Express was a disaster. Nobody really even wanted to send their mail through the Pony Express. That's why they went bankrupt. But writers wrote stories about it, which romanticized the riders as jumping off horses and they wouldn't stop and, running the trail, the Oregon Trail. And it's an amazing blurb in history that grew larger than life simply because of romanticizing riders.
Well, I think I figured out how the Pony Express went bankrupt. They didn't receive their payments because the check was in the mail.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow. Wow, wow.
Oh,
Bow,
yeah.
wow. Oh, yeah. All about sex.
The following segment of the Totally Useless Information podcast may be too sultry and too sexy for some listeners.
Thank you for joining us. Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy. People who haven't seen our picture yet, go to nickandroy.com. People ask which one is the sexier of the two. Roy, you go first.
Oh, come on, Nick.
Okay.
You're a very sexy man.
Boom, chicka, wow, wow.
And me saying that made me ill. If a female ferret doesn't have sex for 1 year, it will die.
Oh.
Yes.
Sometimes humans, sometimes, they go to strange length. It's the monkey chimp
It's
sap.
the monkey juice.
Monkey juice. I'm sorry. I had too much monkey juice. The Spanish fly. Humans sometimes go to strange lengths for sex. It's not that long. Take the alleged aphrodisiac Spanish fly. It's a ground-up bug called a blister beetle that contains an acid, cantharidin. When taken and excreted, it causes a burning sensation in the urethra that apparently passes for sexual excitement in some circles. Oh,
That doesn't sound good, Nick.
no. And by the way, just so that to keep everybody safe, the powder is toxic.
It's toxic, too.
Yes.
During sex, we all know that the breasts, the nipples, and the penis swells.
Mm.
But did you know that something else also swells?
Yeah.
The inner nose.
Oh.
The inner lining of your nose swells because of the additional blood flow. So, being that I listened to you during the show, Nick, if you're a slug, you get 4 times the swelling.
That's right. Because as we mentioned earlier in the show, in the animal section, that the slugs have 4 noses. Wow.
Yeah, but they go, oh, baby, I'm so hot for you. Look at the size of my nose.
Speaking of slugs, the pesky penis, you'll be glad to know that if you're a sea slug, well, look out. These hermaphroditic creatures, their sexual repertoire involves stabbing a syringe-like penile appendage to inject prostate fluids into the body. Oh, and sea slug penises come complete with spines to anchor the organ during sex.
Mine too. I got so tired of having to schedule sex that I just hook on and take them to work with me. But anyway,
just as people can sleepwalk, sleep eat, sleep drive, they can have sex during a snooze.
What?
It depends on how long you're married, too. The condition is called sexomnia, which occurs when people engaging in sexual behavior while asleep. A 2010 study found that of 832 patients at a sleep disorder clinic, 7.6% reported sleep sex.
Yeah. My wife has basically said that to me. She's like, "How was it, honey?" And I'm like, What?
What? Is it morning already?
Well, we all know that chocolate is an aphrodisiac.
Yes.
Okay, but did you know that the smell of pumpkins can increase the blood flow to a man's penis and encourage an erection? Now, my wife set up some Halloween decorations, and I went out to buy the pumpkins, and boy, was that an embarrassing situation for me.
That's why some women say, yes, I love the smell of pumpkin in the morning.
Yeah. Well, after smelling those pumpkins, I'd have a stiff drink from the
Yes.
the monkey juice.
Pumpkin spice monkey juice available at Starbucks. So someone asked a scientist, can you have sex in zero gravity? Well, the idea has yet to be tested as far as anybody knows. It'll be a little tricky because sex is very difficult in zero gravity. Heck, we're having a tough time in full gravity. Apparently, because you have no traction and you keep bumping into the walls, okay?
Yeah, but think about it, Nick. If you got a slug penis, you just shoot it out and hook on.
So basically, according to the studies, if you have no friction, you have no resistance.
Instead of wobble baby, it'd be like floating baby, floating baby, floating.
Nick and Roy will continue with totally useless information. We're back with totally useless information with Nick and Roy. Listen, laugh, and learn.
Einstein was a moron. Newton was a jerk. E equals nothing in science.
Well, I guess we have a theme in this show. We talk about penises. We talked about urine. Charging your phone with urine. Okay, so in case you're missing, you ever leave the house and you forget your phone charger? Well, here's a solution. Dr. Iropoulos from Bristol Robotics Laboratory claimed that one product that we can be sure of an unending supply is your own urine. By harnessing this power as urine passes through a cascade of microbial fuel cells, or MFCs, we have managed to charge a Samsung mobile phone. The scientists believe the technology has the future that's potential to be installed in bathrooms to harness the urine and produce sufficient electricity to power showers, lighting, or razors, as well as mobile phones. Good old P.
See, people thought I was nuts when I would put my phone on vibrate and stick it in my pants. But it was a dual purpose. I was actually charging my phone as well.
Right. Yeah, it's called wireless charging.
Every second, at least 100 million neutrons pass through a square centimeter of our body. Every second, 100 million neutrons. That is insane. That's rude if you really think about it. It's kind of rude because the neutrons could ask permission before they do that, don't you think?
Yeah, that's right, yes. And you talk about a neutron pee-pee dance. Scientists have discovered that sunflowers can pull radioactive contaminants out of the soil. Researchers cleaning up the Fukushima site in Japan were putting...
Whoa, wait a minute.
Fukushima, yes.
Really?
Yes, Fukushima.
They're cleaning the Fukushima place?
They are. Look, you're absolutely right. They're putting the flowers to the test. Sunflowers are really good at absorbing certain radioactive isotopes. As the sunflower plant grows, it's sucking the radiation right out of the soil, thanks to Fukushima.
Watch it now.
All right.
Okay, pregnant women are amazing. Get this. By week 20, they will have 50% more blood in their body. By week 20 of being pregnant. They produce it to help the growth of the baby because they need that amount of blood so that the baby can grow properly. 50% more blood in their bodies. You talk about a blood relative.
Yes. You can find the clearest piece of ice and you can create fire with it. Okay?
Fire. Wow, it's fire and ice.
Fire and ice, exactly. Carve out a big chunk of ice, then shape the ice into a disc. Use the warmth of your hands to melt it into a smooth, round lens. Remember when you used to do this as a kid? Take a magnifying glass and set the ants on fire? Adjust the angle of the ice disc until the rays of the sunlight shine through it, and now you've created fire.
When we have a drink, or when Nick is drinking the monkey juice, okay, it only takes 6 seconds for our brains to react to the alcohol. 6 seconds. No wonder the monkeys are falling out of the tree.
That's right. Penguin poop from space. Scientists at the British Antarctic Survey found 61 emperor penguin colonies dotted around the southernmost continent, 11 more than the number previously confirmed. So they thought they had 50, but no, there are 61. How did they figure this out? British scientists say there are more emperor penguin colonies in Antarctica because of evidence of bird droppings spotted from space. Scientists used images from Europe's Sentinel-2 satellite mission to look for smudges on the ice that indicated large amounts of penguin poop. And that's how they figured out where these emperor penguin colonies were situated.
I have a conspiracy here.
Uh-oh.
Did you know this? And this is a true fact again, because God knows Roy would never lie.
No.
Well, actually, who the hell knows what the hell we're saying on this show?
Totally useless information. You figure it out.
But here's a scientific fact. The continents are splitting and moving at the exact same speed that a fingernail grows.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now.
Right. It moved.
Yes. I was moved by that fact. This is how smart we are. We ask other people what they've invented.
Innovation, ideas. The Totally Useless Information Podcast presents Inventions.
And speaking of smart, my first invention today is a smart jacket.
I thought you were going to go to me. You said, speaking of smart, I thought you were going to say, what do you have, Roy? Well,
Yes.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Sorry. How unsmart of me. This is a smart jacket with a built-in heater, because we all need one of those. I mean, you live in Florida. You'd want one of these, wouldn't you?
No, I would die in that. I almost died today. It was 95 degrees.
95 degrees. You don't need a built-in heater. The Flex Arm jacket has special heating elements built in the back, chest, and wrist areas. With the help of special sensors, you can adjust the heat in accordance to your wishes. A useful discovery that will be appreciated by everyone. The Flex Warm jacket.
The wheel was invented in 3500 before Christ. Did you get that one? 3,500 years before Jesus walked the earth. It was not invented for travel. In fact, it was not even invented to help transport goods or anything. The first wheel was invented for pottery. Remember in the, what was that movie where the ghost comes? Ghost.
Yes, Ghost.
Okay, the first wheel was invented for pottery, and it took some 300 years for people to figure out to attach it to a cart. What the hell were they doing? Making a lot of pottery in China and crap.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, imagine the first flat. You'd have to call like AAA.
Exactly. That's the problem, Nick. That in itself is the problem.
That's right. If you have a flat in the very first wheel made out of stone, you needed a spare stone, right? You need a spare.
It's like going to the Goodyear place. It's a mountain.
And that's where the expression, he's a chip off the old block, came from. No, we don't know. So there's a food scanner, TelSpec. They had invented something that's released for those who want to quickly and accurately know the composition of a dish. It scans the products, then sends a list of ingredients and information about the nutritional value to a special phone app, of course. You don't need to worry about the safety of the products you eat because you know exactly what's in there. So if you have any sort of food allergies, and it's not necessarily, you don't know exactly what's in there, using this TelSpec food scanner, it'll help you. It could save your life.
When we think of the printing press, we think of 1450. And Johann Gutenberg from Liechtenstein. No, he's not from Liechtenstein, but he was from Deutschland. But guess what? The real inventor of the printing press, his name was Bai Sheng. Bai Sheng of China, and he invented it in 1045. And the first words were, "Screw you, Gutenberg."
I'm sure that's exactly what it said, and he spelt it right too.
Yeah.
No, I know this sounds like it's the food segment, but my inventions today, there are a couple of them that have to do with food. So I talked about the food scanner, but Toll House cookies. And the reason why I chose this as the invention is because it was invented by mistake. Or was it? We're not sure. The chocolate chip cookie, of course, was invented by American chefs Ruth Graves, Wakefield, and Sue Brides in 1938. They invented the recipe during the period when she owned Toll House Inn, as in Toll House cookies.
Steel, metal, steel, changed the world. When we think of steel, we think of bridges and skyscrapers. But guess what? Steel was invented in 1800 before Christ. Now, again, this is like, we think all this stuff came about, in the last few hundred years, but, or even a 1,000 years. But this is 1,800 years before Jesus walked the earth. They invented steel because they wanted better knives and swords and battle gear. And because I'll tell you the truth, it really hurts like hell to get stabbed with a wooden sword.
Yes, with all the splinters and everything. And then, of course, you get run over by a stone wheel.
Right, with a piece of pottery attached to it.
Yes, and your day is now complete.
Nick and Roy will continue with totally useless information. To access the full library of episodes, visit nickandroy.com. That's nickandroy.com. You're listening to Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy. Listen, laugh, and learn.
Happened today is history. What happens tomorrow is history. Yeah!
John James Audubon, the amazing painter. He's famous painter for painting birds and wildlife. Of course, every tree-hugging hippie has one of his prints hanging in their tiny houses. Yeah, so John James Audubon, the famous painter, painted these wonderful birds. But did you know, most of the time, he killed the birds, had them stuffed, placed in a position on a branch, and then he painted them. He was a homicidal maniac.
Last name was Audubon. I thought this was going to go in a totally different direction. I thought because he killed all those birds and he wanted to make a clean getaway, he sped down the highway so fast that they named the highway the Audubon.
Right? Can you imagine this guy killed all these birds and stuffed them to paint them? It's the most horrible thing you could do. Yeah, I can see if you're a hunter, you shoot a bird and you eat it. But Mr. Audubon did it for the sheer pleasure of painting it and then threw it, I guess, in the garbage pail. How horrible.
I really thought you were going to go down that road, like literally the Audubon, but it's not. See, even I learned something on this show. That's why we say listen, laugh, and learn. No flies on the pharaohs. Now, if you're wondering if the pharaohs way back when had flies on them, they didn't. And here's the reason why. In ancient Egypt, servants were smeared with honey to attract the flies away from the pharaohs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So,
and the pharaohs' wives would go, "Come here, sweetie."
Say honey, and the servants, all the servants in one will turn their heads and go, "Yes, dear."
They go honey, and they just start throwing it on themselves.
Ew.
Wow. In the UK in the 17th century, if a woman spoke out of turn or inappropriately against her husband, she was forced to wear a branks, B-R-A-N-K-S, a branks, or a bridle muzzle, or also known as a scold's bridle. They were metal cages that were placed over the woman's head, not giving her the ability to speak or move her mouth. 17th century, a time when men were men and women were women.
We're quiet, I guess.
Get in the cage, Alice.
Well, Okay, and I'll tell you this, and maybe this is how the women throughout history got back at their men. In Renaissance France, a woman could take her husband to court if he was impotent, right? So back in the 16th century Europe, marriages weren't so easy to dissolve like it is today, and legal grounds for divorce, including reasons that might shock many of us today, including erectile dysfunction. You know what I was thinking? If the guy was afraid of snakes, does that make him reptile dysfunctional? Anyway, the issue was actually a major reason for marital annulment as early as the 13th century in Europe. In countries like France, Spain, and England, and in some cases, it was the only acceptable reason that you can actually annul the marriage. And apparently, there were so many mistrials because of a hung jury.
In 1929, the same people that wanted to ban alcohol wanted to ban women from smoking, make it illegal for women to smoke. They would spend hard time in jail. Okay, women took to the streets to win the right to smoke. They walked around with signs that said Torches of Liberty. Okay, it only lasted, the actual street demonstration lasted 10 minutes because they all stopped for a cigarette break.
This now is a story in our history section of Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy, King Henry VIII and the Grooms of Stool. In medieval England, servants assisted monarchs in virtually everything, including providing royalty with, quote, assistance when it came time for the king in question to spend some time on his throne, the porcelain throne. These servants were known as the Grooms of Stool, not because they were sitting on one, and it was they who would aid the king when nature called. Essentially, the groom of the stool is required to carry around a portable commode and be around the king or the queen at all times, along with water, towels, and a wash bowl. So whenever the king or the queen had to go, they have suitable facilities at their disposal. Although the job might sound a little demeaning to you and I, it was actually a very coveted position that often went to sons of noblemen. So could you imagine? That's my son over there. He's helping the king.
I'm so proud.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of the way he wipes.
That's right. The groom of the stool spent a lot of time with the king, which meant that he was privy to the confessions of monarchs at their most vulnerable states. So even though it seemed like a crappy job, they were in on lots of the stuff that was going on.
Could you imagine the kid comes home late and the father's like, "Where were you?" And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm late, Dad. There was a log jam.
Yes. They had the ear and the rear of the king. You're listening to Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy.
And now, from around the corner and around the world, this is TUI News. Here are your anchors, Nick and Roy.
A man's bladder explodes after holding his pee for 18 hours. Okay.
What? It exploded inside of him?
It is an incident that redefines sleeping it off. A Chinese man's bladder burst when he unknowingly held his pee for 18 hours.
Boy, was he probably pissed off.
Well, he was, because he went on a drink binge.
A monkey juice drinker.
That's right. He was a monkey juice drinker all night. The 40-year-old man, identified only as Mr. Who.
I love this.
What? He goes to court. He says, what is your name? Who? You. Reportedly,
That's Mr. Who.
That's
right. Mr. Who to you.
Mr. Who to you. Mr. Who said he reportedly fell asleep after downing 10 bottles of beer during a heavy drinking session the night prior, and, well, he never went to pee. So after experiencing searing abdominal pains, the lager-logged soul reported, I love that, the lager-logged soul reported to the hospital where a CT scan revealed that the bladder was torn in 3 different places. Mm-hmm. The pee-induced pain was so intense that Hu was unable to lie flat, and he failed to relieve himself he failed to relieve himself of his massive urine reservoir despite several attempts. So he couldn't even pee if he tried. So, according to some doctors, he'll be okay, but he's going to be uncomfortable for a little while. So, thanks to Mr. Who. Please be careful.
This is crazy stuff, Nick. Where do you come up with this?
It's news from around the world. This is all the time we have right now for this week's show. Totally useless information with Nick and Roy. Don't you worry. We will scour the internet far and wide to find more useless information for you.
So, in the meantime, go to nickandroy.com, and leave us an email too. And also, tell a friend about the trend and like us and share us to all of your friends, because it's you that makes this show so popular all around the world.
Thank you for that. I'm Nick.
And I'm Roy.
Thanks for listening.
Totally Useless Information with Nick and Roy is a production of nickandroy.com. Visit nickandroy.com to access the full library of episodes, or wherever you get your podcasts.